What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a review slash overview of an item that is not quite a knife. It's not a knife at all. It's a multi-tool that has a knife on it. This is the Leatherman Surge. I unboxed this a while back, or actually what I did was I tossed it in the box with all the other knives that we were going to unbox so that I could preview it. I just kind of snuck it in there. And then I said, I promise I'll do a review on this. And then, you know, I was kind of waiting because there were so many knives that we had coming in that I was interested in. And I'm, you know, first and foremost, I'm a knife guy. You know, I like tools. I like little things that I can carry around and use. You know, first and foremost, I'm a knife guy. So, you know, I still want to review this because I think it's really, really cool, and I think you guys would be interested in it, especially if you're kind of in the market for a really good multi-tool. And a lot of knife guys, you know, kind of tend to like multi-tools as well. So I had been looking for one for a very long time, like literally over 2 years, and I just could never quite pull the trigger because there was always a knife I wanted more. But I finally did, so I'm excited about this. This has a lot of tools on it. I am not an expert on the history of multi-tools or Leatherman. I probably won't get every single item correct on this guy, but I want to go over, you know, quality and things like that. So before we get too far, let's go over some specs. So first, let's do overall length closed. We'll go ahead and close that back there. Get her nice and straight. And overall length closed, we're looking at about 4.5 inches. Opened up, even though I probably could have just done that while I had it open up the first time. Looks to be about 7 inches. So the largeness in this guy is not going to come in length. It's going to come in thickness and in heft. Before we weigh it, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons while I've got it open. I'm going to compare it with knives because this is a knife channel. So compared to the Ontario Rat 1, you can see there Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches. Compared to the Paramilitary 2, PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches. Compared to the Benchmade Griptilian coming in at 8 inches. Compared to the Delica, which is the last knife comparison, it's going to come in at about 7 inches. I know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's just how we traditionally do things on this channel, so that's how I'm going to do it. Let's weigh it, because that's going to give you guys the best idea of heft. And actually, here, let's give you a thickness idea versus a PM2 in hand. This thing is thick. This is a monster. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the largest, most heavy-duty multi-tools that Leatherman offers. Now, I don't know what they released at SHOT Show. I didn't watch their video. I know they released a few new things at SHOT Show for 2019. The Surge is not a new model. This has been around for a while, so this is not a new model. Just want to make that clear. Let's go ahead and fold it back up so it's easier to weigh. We'll get the scale out. Scale right there. Turn it on. Holy moly, that weighs over 12 ounces. This is a very heavy multi-tool. I'll say this right now. If you are looking to EDC a multi-tool, you won't have to read very long online to find that like 90% of people will tell you to EDC a Leatherman wave. And I've never handled a wave, but just by looking at it, I'm going to say, yeah, if you're really wanting to EDC a multi-tool, that's probably the way to go. Now, for me, this is why I bought this. So when my wife and I bought our house, we bought it with the intention of adding another bedroom and bathroom to the basement. The backyard was essentially a blank canvas for us to do whatever we wanted, so we built an awning. We're going to build a whole bunch of stuff back there in the coming years. And sometimes when I go back there, I'm doing big weekend-long projects or multi-week projects, and sometimes I'm just doing something that's going to take a couple of hours. If you like me, you've got a toolbox or a tool bag that you heave around, you know, no matter what you're doing. There are times where I don't need anything more than something like this, and maybe one or two other tools. So I don't want to be carrying around my tool bag. You know, there's also situations in the house where I need something to get done quick. It doesn't really require a knife, you know, especially if it's like something, just a screw that needs tightening, or you know, a toy needs new batteries or something like that, or the remote needs new batteries. Maybe it's one of those remotes that has a screw on it. That's annoying. I don't think remote controls have screws on them, but I don't know, maybe yours does. Little things like that, you don't necessarily need to get out your whole tool bag or dig through it. This is my answer. I am not going to EDC this tool, this multi-tool, but it does make little things around my house convenient, and so that was the reason for buying it. Even though, moving on here, even though this is not a knife per se, it does have a blade on it, and it is one that you can actually, whoops, that's the wrong blade. It is one that you can actually deploy with your thumb, and it has a liner lock, which is another reason why I really like this. You can see there, that's the liner lock and the engagement. There is no blade play, up, down, left, to right. I was pretty impressed with that. To disengage, you push in here, and then it comes down. You can see the blade doesn't rub. I don't know how you judge centering on something like this. To me, as long as it doesn't rub is really all I care about. The blade itself, the grind lines are a little bit wonky. It doesn't match up on both sides, which, you know, at $110, which is what this thing costs, roughly $100 to $110 online, you're not paying for the blade. You know, you're paying for the multitude of tools that you get with. And so would it have been nice for the blade to have been ground more symmetrically, or be made out of a steel that's better than 420HC, which is what this is made of? Well, sure, but I'm getting a whole bunch of tools with this, and in my opinion, I am getting a quality product, so I don't really care. You know, oftentimes I'm going to have my pocket knife on me anyway. This is kind of a beater blade. I gotta be honest, I don't really care what it's made out of, and 420HC isn't bad. Just to do the paper cut test to show you guys, it does slice. There's a little bit of resistance there. It's not bad. You can see there that first cut it had trouble biting, and right there it was wanting to tear kind of at the end. But for the most part, it's pretty slicey. You know, I mean, it's not really slicey, but it'll cut. It'll do what I expect it to do for a kind of an afterthought blade on a multi-tool. So that's pretty much it for standard stuff there. Moving on to anatomy, technically, that's going to be like all the tools. So the main tools that you can deploy from the closed position, or what I would call the closed position, are that blade. Then you have another blade here, which is essentially a serrated edge and kind of a Warncliffe or sheep's foot. Well, it doesn't have a tip. It drops. It's not really a, I wouldn't call it a sheep's foot, more of a Warncliffe style serrated edge. Then you have your interchangeable saw blade, which is actually very, very effective. The saw blade can actually be pulled out of here, removed, and replaced with other saw blades that you can apparently get from Leatherman. It also has, and I've got this in the case here, it also comes with a little baggie that is going to be really awkward to pull out of here, and slowly. And this baggie holds, or this little pouch here holds the diamond file, which it comes with. It looks like you've got two different, you know, you've got sort of a file here, and one, the other side I would use, I imagine this is the diamond side, you could use to actually sharpen your blades, whether it be the one on this Leatherman tool or just the knife that you're carrying. But this little pouch that it comes with that fits nicely into the Leatherman case there in that back pocket can hold interchangeable saw blades that you can get. You can probably get different, you know, saw blades with different teeth, I guess. I'm not sure how you measure that. Different file sizes, things like that. So it's kind of nice to have that option in there. I don't know that I will ever change that out, or I'll ever need anything other than the diamond file it comes with, or the saw that it comes with. But it's nice to know that I have that option. I'm just going to work that back into this pouch here real quick and proceed. So, outside of that, you've got the scissors, which this was a big thing that I was really impressed with on this version of it, because these are heavy-duty scissors, and apparently they're much more heavy-duty than what comes on the Leatherman Wave. They lock out. They've got a liner lock. In fact, all the tools you've seen so far have the liner lock, and you have a much larger pair of scissors here. We will cut the exact same piece of paper that I was doing the cut test on, just to demonstrate, but they're very effective. They work just fine. They fit in your hands. It's kind of a sloppy job cutting that there, but just to kind of demonstrate really quick how those work, so that's pretty cool. And then, of course, like the other tools, you can simply release and put it back into place. Opening this up, you, of course, have the pliers, and then inside there's wire cutters and wire strippers and a whole bunch of different things that you can do there with the tip. The coolest part of that is that you can see that screw there up at the top. That's actually a replaceable 154 cm wire cutting blade. So that's pretty cool. 154 cm being, you know, pretty edge retentive, very tough, and very corrosion resistant. I'm sure it would be very effective at both cutting wire and will probably last for a really long time. And then once it, for whatever reason, you know, wears out, if you use it that much, you can simply replace it. So that's all pretty neat there. You can see up close exactly how, you know, not only does it look heavy duty, but I mean, this thing is heavy duty and everything meets up correctly. You know, I'm not seeing any weird symmetry problems. Everything seems to be held together very, very well. Everything looks nice. It looks solid. It's very thick, in a good way, you know, in a reassuring way. You can see there you have your, you're able to measure actually. So if I were to put this down, let me see, it's hard. I'm looking through the camera here. There we go, this way. Starting from the left side, looks to be, you can measure out 7 inches probably total overall. So let's give that a shot actually. Could technically use this for my knife measurements there. 8.6 inches, I would say, yeah, the total length there. Well, that makes sense given the total length is about 7 inches. So that's pretty useful. I like that that's in there. Moving on to the inside, more interesting stuff. What we've got here, there's little tabs that allow you to open this up. You've got a large, well, let's start with this one. You've got a small flat head, a large flat head slash pry bar is what I call it. And then the awl, I think is what that's called, or it's essentially like a leather punch. But what's neat is all of these lock out. So if I just wanted to use, let's say I wanted to use the large flat head, and maybe I was going to do some light prying, and I emphasize light prying because this really shouldn't be used as a heavy-duty pry bar. Excuse me, this bar back here you can see has locked it out, so it's no longer going to move. To release it, sorry, let me focus again. Come on now. Focus, there we go. Depress here, it raises the bar up, and then you can close it. Now, a lot of people say, you know, why would I need the large flathead and I've already got a small flathead? They could have been a different tool. I don't really care. There are definitely situations that I run into where a large flathead or a small flathead makes a difference between me being able to do it. Especially, now I think the biggest complaint comes from this side. The interchangeable bit comes with yet another flathead, which is kind of in between the two sizes. But see, the nice thing about this is you can buy that bit set from Leatherman, and you can get a whole bunch of different bits that fit in there. I'm probably only ever going to need, or only ever going to use the Phillips head on this side, so that's totally fine. But it also locks, which is great. You also have a can opener, which actually will double as a bottle opener, and I think that's actually it for the tools on this side. Now, like I said, I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch of tools or tools that double as other things, because there are a lot of functionalities with this guy. But, you know, after careful consideration of all the different models that were available at the time and everything that I generally use or would want to use outside. By the way, I think that can opener doubles as a bottle opener. I don't know if I said that. It's hard to remember what I said while I'm just talking because there's no script. Maybe I already said that. I just thought it while I'm talking. But anyways, after careful consideration of everything that was available between all their models, this was the one that spoke to me the most. It's heavy duty, and maybe I just wanted it because it was like this big thing, and you know, but because I'm not going to carry it, I don't really care how big and heavy it is. And honestly, this thing folded up when it's put in the pouch, I carry this, or I carry this on my belt, and I don't really have a problem with it. Honestly, I don't have a problem with it. I used to work construction for my dad, and carrying around a tool belt with a hammer and a bunch of stuff in there, that's literally like 50 times heavier than this. And that was, a lot of times, that was something I wore all day while I was working. Now, obviously, I have that option to do that in my backyard if I've got a weekend-long project. But if I don't need all of those tools, it's simply much easier to carry this. And after, you know, yeah, it's heavy and you notice it at first, but after a while, you don't really notice it. Would I notice it if I was going to EDC it all day? Yeah, definitely. I mean, you definitely would. But if you're outside, you're probably not going to notice it. The pouch also, this is the premium pouch that you can get, by the way. I think there's an option for a different pouch. You've got two little slots in your other side. I often see guys put a lighter in this side and some other stuff over here, maybe a ferro rod or something like that. I don't know. I don't need to do that. I'm not needing to survive in my backyard. What you can also get is the lanyard loop and the pocket clip. Now, this was the only thing that was a letdown for me, and I'll tell you guys why. So let me connect this. The way that this connects is, where is it? Oh, right here. So the way that this connects, it slips right in here, if I remember correctly, and you just push it down. Now that right there looks like, oh, great. You know, it's kind of a deep carry situation, kind of. Here's the problem. Enormous amount of play. Yeah, it works. It does function. It will hang on your pocket, but it just wiggles all over the place. It's kind of ridiculous. And I liked that idea because I thought, you know, I could stick that in my pocket if I wasn't going to carry a knife and carry it around with me, and it would make it so I didn't have to carry the pouch on the outside of my pants. But I put it on, and yeah, and by the way, for those of you wondering, yes, I do have it clipped down all the way, because that's what I thought at first. I was like, maybe I don't have it clipped down all the way. But I've read that that's just the case. That's how they ride. So there's not really anything that I can do about that. It's just going to wiggle. It's not a matter of getting a different clip or getting a different Leatherman. That's just how they are. So I don't really like that, and I'm not going to carry it with the clip. If I'm going to carry it around and use it for stuff inside or outside, I'm going to leave it in the pouch, or I'm just going to put the whole thing in my pocket, which is kind of awkward. But overall, I love this thing. Absolutely. And I've already used it a little bit just for some little things, but it is a convenient tool. It's nice to have something like this around the house, especially if you want to save your nicer folding knife. There are a lot of things that I don't want to do with my Inkosi or my Griptilian or my Shaman or whatever, you know? I mean, like, I'd love to say that I'm the type of guy who just doesn't care and uses his knife for everything. I don't. I'm definitely, you know, I definitely pick and choose what I'm okay cutting with my blades, because I know if I mess it up, I have to sharpen it back out. And a lot of times if I spend a whole bunch of money on something like the Inkosi, I just don't want to do any excess damage to it, you know? But something like this, yeah, I'm totally okay with that. At 110 bucks, I'm totally okay with beating this thing into the ground. And, you know, the video I watched that sold me, it was a couple of guys who took 2 or 3 days to, they literally tried to destroy this using, you know, doing things with it that you might do with it that were pretty hardcore, all the way up to things that you would never, ever, ever have to do with this tool. And some things that really were completely unnecessary, like throwing it out the window of a 2-story building and letting it land on concrete, or running it over with a vehicle from multiple angles. You know, those are not typically destruction tests that I agree with, because they don't really prove anything. It's kind of like my opinion on the spine whack test. I think it's ridiculous. But the fact that it took, I think they ran over this thing with a vehicle 6 or 7 times. And it wasn't until the 7th time that it finally broke. And even when it broke, all it did was pop one of these caps off, making like, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 tools became unusable, but the thing still worked. And I was just like, man, those were completely unreasonable tests that I don't agree with, but I can't deny that it's very impressive. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger on this guy, and I'm really, really happy with it. If you're looking for a multi-tool, obviously check out what Leatherman has. I think Leatherman is probably the way to go. if you're looking for the best of the best in terms of multi-tools. I know Gerber makes some and SOG makes some, and there's other. I'm not interested in those. Leatherman seems to be the most premium multi-tools that are out there, as far as I'm aware. You know, take a look, see what's going to work for you, and take a look at their new stuff. You know, there might be something that works for you better than this. But as far as a durable multi-tool goes, you know, I think your money's going to the right place with these. There was that big thing a while back where it's like they claim to be made in the United States, and a lot of components of this are in fact not made in the United States. To my knowledge, there is not a multi-tool out there that is 100% made in the United States. Leatherman is, I think, the most USA-made multi-tool, but just so you guys know, it's not 100% made in the USA. Now, with that being the case, it doesn't really bother me. Some people, you know, will view that as bad business practices, especially claiming that it was all made in the USA and that it wasn't, and they lied about it. Listen, I don't care. I'm buying a multi-tool because I want to use it as a tool. I don't really care about the drama surrounding it. Some of you might, and that's completely your decision. I'm just letting you know I don't care. It's not like, you know, if you were to inform me more about it, there's a chance that I would take this back. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it. So I don't mean to be preachy. It's just once I've made a purchase decision, that's generally the way that it stays. So, I really like this thing. I trust its durability. It functions well. It locks up solid in terms of, you know, how this locks up. You don't have a situation where I was worried that maybe once I close this out that like one side would wiggle or it just wouldn't feel solid or it would rattle or something. The only thing that's rattling is the pocket clip. That's what you're hearing there. But everything else is super, super solid. And I love it. I love this thing. I think it's really, really cool. And I'm really happy that I went with it. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. That's as much as I really can say about this Leatherman multi-tool. For those of you who are really, really knowledgeable in these things, you probably cringed a little bit as I went over this because you can tell I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm more of a knife guy. I just really liked this, and I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to do an overview and a review and let you guys know what I really thought and what I was actually going to use it for. It might be kind of nice to do a video after like a year of use, come back to this and point out, you know, how it's doing, or you know, maybe additional gripes that I might have, or you know, maybe I'll like it even more. Who knows? But anyway, I just really wanted to talk about this thing, even though it's not a knife. So for those of you who are expecting a knife today and you were disappointed, I promise you, there are some super cool knives coming to the channel. One really, really cool knife coming, hopefully next week. Definitely more knife stuff. Primarily going to be knife stuff on this channel. Every now and then we're going to do stuff like this. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks for watching and have a great day.